Welcome to the Ecom Collab Club Podcast, where operators, risk takers, and battle-tested founders drop the lessons that cost them time, money, and their sanity, and share what actually works so you don't have to pay the same price. Hosted by Peter Gardner and Adam Pierce, founders of the Ecom Collab Club and Blend Commerce, the Shopify CRO agency, and proudly sponsored by OmniSend. Email and SMS marketing so good, it's boring.
Oi, oi! Welcome back again to the Ecom Collab Club Podcast. This is the only place where we don't do corporate work voice, we don't do fluffy marketing, and we definitely don't do business as usual. Did you like that, guys? Was it slick and smooth and cool? Great. Let's see. Anyway, guys, today we are going to dive into something that most e-commerce brands really underestimate, and that is the last mile. So what we're talking about is the fact, look, you can have the best ads, you can have the best store, best checkout flow, all that stuff. But if your fulfillment, your packaging, your post-purchase experience don't deliver, your customers are not coming back. So our guest today, he is proving that a box is not just a box. It's a statement, and it's a way to get more free marketing. And we're talking about Steve Willicott, the man behind Uncle Matt's Hats, a brand that making high-quality caps. We're using them to spark real conversations about mental health. Now, from using ice cream tub packaging, yes, ice cream tub packaging, that stops people in their tracks, to build a movement through events and social impact, Steve has mastered the last mile experience in a way that really gets people talking, sharing, and also coming back. Now, after we put Steve through the interrogation today, Bob and I can do our best to do our usual post-match debrief, where we're going to unpack what we've learned. Plus, if you're lucky, might get some insults at each other along the way too.
Hey, retailers and e-commerce brands, this event is for you. Join us at Retail Fest 2025 on the sunny Gold Coast in Aussie from the 28th to the 30th May. You'll meet industry experts, network with fellow business leaders, and pick up simple yet effective strategies to grow your brand. Think of it as a relaxed chat with the best in the business, where you'll leave with useful tips you can put into action straight away. Don't wait. Get your tickets now at retailglobal.com.au. Retail Fest 2025 is where the future of retail happens.
Oi, how's it going?
Good morning.
You guys doing all right?
Yeah, very good, thanks.
Yeah, nice intro there, Mr. Pierce.
Well, you know, I tried.
So, Steve, we don't like to do the normal, as I'm sure you know. So we're not going to go with the normal, hey, give us an intro, tell us all about yourself. I think today we're going to start with like a little hat trick. So if you could give us a little bit more information about yourself, but in the way of 3 short little stories that give us more context about who you are, where you come from, what you do, and, you know, what is Steve all about? And so, you know, this is going to be about the past. What's the sort of the past story, and what's the present, what's happening right now, and then what's the future, what's happening in the next 5 years for you, where do you ideally want to be?
This sounds like a fucking Tinder profile, guys. I mean, but let's see.
I should have pulled mine up, shouldn't I?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so morning. Thanks for having me on. Oh God, where do I start? So I guess it begins with, so I've been in e-commerce for 21 years.
Is e-com even that old?
Yeah, see, I know I only look 21, but I've actually been in the, you know, so
it's got a great skincare regime.
Yeah. I must say as well, you know, people joke about e-commerce stereotypes, and they're probably looking at the 3 of us and going, Christ, is there triplets here, you know?
If we were all wearing your hat as well.
Yeah. Which you should be as well, by the way. Well, I don't know why you're not. So I was the CEO of a pure play sports e-commerce business for 12 years. So joined that in 2004 and exited in 2016. And so, sort of loads of fires to put out along the way, loads of peaks, loads of troughs, loads of different bits we did. We acquired other brands. We started our own brands. We were retailing branded products, so Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, all of that sort of stuff. So all focused around football and rugby. So I exited in 2016 and looked for other CEO opportunities. I'm down here in South Devon on the beach. I can see the beach actually if I look that way. And so didn't really want to relocate. My family didn't want to relocate. And so what resulted in was a bit of an advisory consulting piece, which I've been doing for the last kind of 9 years. So yeah, that's kind of the past. So I've been working with currently working with sort of half a dozen brands, just advising on the sideline. But then in more recent times, obviously the Hat Project, which I'm sure we'll get into, came out of a personal story that happened to us in our family. And yeah, so I'm sure we'll come on to that. But yeah, future, I guess just further in the mission, which again, we'll talk about, I'm sure.
Is the future, would you say that this is going to be more, do you want to venture more away from the consulting and actually just into your own thing, or is the consulting still going to be a piece of what you want to do as well?
It's a tricky one because I think it's beneficial to keep it up, because I think it keeps me not just in a silo and focused on one thing. And having been the CEO of a business, ecom business, for 12 years, you're very much in the weeds with that business, and it's hard to bring yourself out and see what's going on in the world. So it does give me that kind of a wider view of the market, different sectors, different ideas, things like that. So I'd like to keep a bit going, just because I find it quite interesting and things like that. So, but yes, obviously as the new project scales up, that's going to take more of my time, and I'm going to have less available time to advise. Yeah.
So I just touching on what you're saying there, like it's you're getting that experience working with other people that you're now going, okay, how do I cross that over and go, okay, how do I grow my own brand with that now?
Exactly.
Based on that knowledge, not copy, but repurpose.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. And then you sort of take chunks from each project or each business that you work with, and you say, well, actually, they were really good at that. They were really good at that. Or we launched that initiative there, and that worked, wouldn't work it. So you can sort of cherry pick the bits out that would actually apply. And a lot of, again, I know we'll talk about it, but a lot of what we're doing with Uncle Matt's is focused on all those learnings from the last 20 years, applying them into a product and a proposition.
Yeah. Oh, that's exactly something that we've found. We've never niched down within our agency. We've never niched down to say, okay, we only do skincare brands. For us, we learn so much from the different e-commerce businesses that you go, hey, that's an angle that we never thought of for this business, and that's how we can get that across to do those things as well. So yeah, it's interesting to say, you're going to have your own brand, but you're still going to go, hell, I still want to actually do this consulting as well. So
yeah. I mean, that's the plan. Whether it plays off, because obviously, time resource is always hard, as you guys all know. So, but that's the idea anyway. Yeah, maybe keep a couple people on the go, and maybe a bit lighter touch with those. So more kind of non-exec type stuff.
Yeah, awesome, cool. Well, thanks so much for those stories.
I mean, before we go to the next question, I just want to give Dan a shout. He said, "A great chat, guys. Though, I do have glasses. I don't have a beard. Can I stay? Is he allowed to stay, guys?"
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, go on then, Dan. We'll let you, mate. We'll let you.
It looks like he's got a nice cap on, at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Dan has an interesting story, actually. Dan spoke, I don't know if you remember, Adam, or whether you're still there. Dan spoke at one of our events recently. So, he's got an interesting story around alopecia, which is why he hasn't got a beard. So,
there we go.
Good stuff. Well, Steve, I want to talk about Uncle Matt's hats now. And I guess, look, you mentioned there, obviously, about Dan speaking at the event. And I think the first time I came across you was a conversation around mental health, and a conversation that I had with a good friend of both of ours, Rich Evans, is obviously someone who's deeply involved with you. I know it isn't probably an easy story to tell, very quickly, but I guess, look, in your own words, in terms of the creation of Uncle Matt's hats, if people listening aren't really aware of the story behind it, Tell us a bit more about why it means so much to you on that kind of personal level rather than just as a business.
Sure. So for people that don't know, the brand Uncle Matt's hats, so we make that. Number one, we want to make awesome hats that people want to wear, and they're very technically advanced, and they're so in terms of hats, they're kind of like super cool, super premium. Second thing we want to do is raise awareness and normalize mental health struggles, because as I'm sure we'll get onto, we've all had our own struggles. And the third thing is to give back to mental health charities and actually support some really good initiatives that we're doing. So we're donating a proportion of profits back to those charities. So that's kind of the brand. The reason why it's hard to talk about is, so it's called Uncle Matt's. Matt was my brother. And in 2020, we lost him to suicide. And so he had struggled kind of on and off in his adult life with mental health struggles. But for the last kind of 9 years, was doing really well. Started or inherited my dad's gardening business. So self-employed, running his own business, earning a bit of money, was traveling, was playing lots of golf, was doing loads of cool things. And we thought, oh, this is great. He seems to have kind of, you don't kind of beat your demons, but learned a way of sort of coping with life. And then, of course, 2020 hit, and we were all in lockdown and all shut into our houses or our flats. And because he was a gardener, he would work throughout the summer and obviously earn his money, and then would hibernate throughout the winter because obviously there was not a lot of demand for work. And so would sort of live off the earnings from the summer through the quiet period. And of course, lockdown hit in March, just when he was about to set off and start working again. And obviously got himself into a financial situation. It was the early days of kind of furlough support and things like that. So fell through the cracks, self-employed. Furlough support wasn't there on the early days of lockdown. And it got to his birthday in May, so May 27th. And unfortunately thought he couldn't go on any longer and decided to take his own life. So so that's the sad bit. That's the hard bit to talk about. The positive bit of this is that we're trying to take that kind of awful story and do something good with it. And when I started talking to people about Matt and his story, everybody, I mean, we had a little chat off air before we came on, and everybody has their own story in terms of mental health struggle, and whether that's directly people experiencing it themselves or through a loved one or a family member or a friend or a best or whatever it is. Everybody's got their own story. And so when I started talking about Matt, everyone was going, well, my dad this, my brother that, my wife, my husband, whatever it was. They all had their own stories. And I thought, shit, this is obviously huge. So surely we can do something with this. So anyway, Matt, I'll try and keep this short, but Matt was very much known for wearing baseball caps. Would always be seen in a baseball cap. In fact, found it very hard to find any pictures of him in his adult life without him with a baseball cap on. I think there's one of him at my wedding when I said, you can't wear a fucking hat to my wedding, but so known for his hats. And one of the things he would do was on my kids' birthdays, he would turn up with a new hat for them. And it would be a hat that they were something they were into. So if they were into Paw Patrol, my little boy has a Paw Patrol hat that he got him, or it might be a hat that matched his one of Matt's hats. And the kids started calling them their Uncle Matt's hats because they're from their Uncle Matt, and that's what it is. So it became this kind of it sounds very very business speak, but it became this internal brand within the household. And so we would say, go and grab your Uncle Matt's hat. It's sunny out, or where have you put your Uncle Matt's hat? Those sorts of things. And so that happened. And when Matt died, we divvied up all his hat collection. So we've all got some of his own hats. But about 2 years later, my little girl's school book was sent home just at the end of term, just for us to see what she was up to. And they were doing a piece around valuing objects and how you might value an object differently to me because you have an emotional connection to it and all these things. And she had drawn a picture of this hat that Matt had got her. And she'd even drawn the little Under Armour logo that was on the front. And she wrote about how the person that gave her this item died and how it reminds her of him, and she's got a memory of him and all stuff like that. And you know, this is sort of 2 years on. She was 5 when he died, and so this was when she was 7. And I was like, shit, this is you know, she thinks of him as this object. There's these hats. That's what she remembers him by. So, as I said at the start, you know, I've been in e-commerce for a long time and been running an e-commerce business or advising an e-commerce business for a long time. Always had the kind of itch to do something, my own brand, but never really found anything that I was kind of passionate about and that I really wanted to do. And so thought, well, let's try and make some hats. You know, I wear baseball caps all the time. So does my other brother. So let's try and make some cool hats, but instead of just making a hat brand and naming it after him, let's actually tie it to the mental health story and try and do some good. So, yeah.
I mean, Matt, every time, Steve, you know, and I called you Matt there, which I know is a funny story last time, but we won't get into that now. But I think, you know, Steve, look, every time I hear you talk about this, there is so much that goes through my mind. And I think, like I said there at the start, you know, the event that I went to of yours and heard the full story about kind of how the business came about, it's still so now, even weeks on after that event, you know, and it's a great way to start this conversation about mental health. And like some of the comments, obviously, people are putting on here, it's something that isn't talked about enough. I think one of the things that I reflect on here is, you know, for me as a person, I'm not sure whether creating a business that is so personal would be easy to do. Do you sometimes find it hard to I guess keep retelling the story, even though you've got a great mission, you can great work around it? Is there an element of you that there's some pain associated with that? That's kind of what I think in my mind about a conflict. Do you have any of that?
Yeah, it's funny because it sort of comes and goes, and there's two things there really. One is, as with anything, you know, and you guys will know in your professional career that you're skilled in something, so you do it a lot, so you become good at it, and it becomes just kind of part of your repertoire. And so I tend to find myself talking about the story at times and sort of forgetting the enormity of the thing behind it, you know, and every now and then it catches me out, and you know, I can be talking about it and just going through it like I'm that, and I have a little wobble, have a little waver, and things like that, and it's funny because so it's not there all the time, but at times it kind of whacks you in the face, and you go, oh yeah, I remember. I've told this story before, but when we were raising investment for this, and I'd had various meetings with potential investors. And then we had one sort of roundtable with a few people on Zoom calls as well. And I talked about it quite, you know, commercially and quite, you know, in a business way. And I got to one bit of the pitch and just completely, you know, and when your voice wavers and you say, oh, I like this. And speaking to somebody afterwards, and they said, what happened there? What? And I said, it was just the sheer enormity of all these people are sat around a table looking to back a project that is about Matt. And, you know, and it's about his story, and it's about the wider issue. And, you know, everybody was telling their own stories, and it was getting people to talk and everything. It was kind of just like that bit of a, oh shit, yeah, this is big. So that's one thing I sort of struggle with. I kind of waver into kind of normal business mode, and then go, oh God, yeah, this is a painful thing, and it kind of whacks me. The other thing I struggle with a little bit is, you know, I've decided to go out and talk about this a lot and made that decision, whereas my family and Matt's friends and all of that haven't made that decision. And so they're seeing me talking about it. They're seeing me, tell the story or recapping different things, and even see me wearing a hat which represents, you know, it is designed to represent the wider mental health issue that we have, but is obviously named after him, because for me, he represents that issue. And I think they haven't decided to have that replayed over and over. And so I feel a little bit of guilt that I'm kind of doing that to them. But I try to offset it with hopefully the good that's coming from the wider discussion around it. But yeah, it is hard at times.
I think Are they with you on this? Are they happy for you to do it, or they said?
Yeah, well, they haven't said that they're not. Who knows? But yes, yeah, no, they all love it. They all, love the idea, and they've all got their own hats, and they all wear them. And I get pictures. We've got family dotted around the world, and so I get pictures from Australia or Switzerland and things like this. And so yeah, everybody's really behind it. But I kind of think that there's being behind it from a sort of a mission and a purpose, but there's that emotional connection of replaying it over and over and over again, which must be.
I think you're doing it in such a good style. I would struggle to see how that wouldn't be something that'd be behind.
Yes, yeah. And it's probably just a guilt thing that I'm carrying, that probably isn't actually there, but
just in the subconscious.
Yeah.
So, Steve, you've obviously got, Simon Sinek always talks about this. You've got a massive why. This thing is huge. Is there a feeling that, like, and this might come across cold, and that's not what I'm trying to say here. Is there a fear that this fails, or is this like, well, fuck it, if it fails, it doesn't matter. I still, serve the purpose of what I'm trying to do here.
I mean, I think there would be disappointment if it fails. Yes, naturally, in any commercial project that you're launching, if it fails, it would be disappointing. But I kind of think of it in it. If it fails, but we still raise some awareness, then it's succeeded. If it fails commercially, then we've still succeeded in raising some awareness and
which you've done already, right? That's 100% achieved already.
That's it. If it kind of is a small lifestyle type business, then great. We're still doing some good, and if it can support itself and wash its face and all of that, then great. That's also interesting, and I enjoy it, so it's fun. And equally, if it does very well, then even better. So kind of, for me, there's kind of, no bad route, really.
Yeah. I mean, how long have you been going now? For about 6 months?
Yeah. So a little bit less, probably about 5, yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible what you've done already, mate. Like, we're gonna move on to this now. Like, this sits behind me every day. I haven't just put that thing today. This is there every day.
I've got tons of them everywhere. So
I feel like a right prick now for not having mine on me, but never mind.
Do you know what? My cat probably sits right here, and for some reason it's not here right now. Right, so most brands see packaging as an expense, right? Like, it's like, oh fuck, we've got to deliver this package. It's an expense. We're going to put it in a brown box, and we're going to send it off there. You've envisioned this completely different. Can you take us through the process of you going, okay, I need this thing, the packaging, to be something that stands out. I need this to be the experience. What was the thinking when you were developing the brand, when you went, you know what, I'm going to make this an ice cream container, and I'm going to freak out delivery people?
So there's two parts to it. One comes from Matt's story, and one comes from the professional stuff I do with the advising and stuff we've done for years in the business that I was involved with. So the bit related to Matt was when we were in our teens, we were, and I always joke about this, we were what we called aggressive skaters, because we were too cool to be called rollerbladers, because this was the mid-90s and rollerblading was not considered cool, and it was all spandex and zipping along beaches and stuff like this. But anyway, so Matt used to work in a skate shop, and he was about 18 or so, and I was about 14, and naturally just hung out with him in the skate shop all the time. And we became obsessed with this brand called Senate, which you can still find some stuff if you look it up. And they did all the normal t-shirts, jeans, skate type stuff, but they also did skate wheels. But instead of sending the skate wheels out in just tubes or boxes or things like that, they sent them out in unusual packaging. So they sent them out in like beer bottles or milk cartons, or what else? They sent bearings out in like CD cases, or skate tools in cigar tubes, and all stuff like this. And it was really cool. And so it became a bit collectible. We would collect these things, and so we would buy the wheels to use, but also would buy them because they came in cool packaging. And when after Matt died and I got access to his flat and had the enviable task of clearing out all his stuff, I found some of this stuff that he had kept. And I'd got rid of mine years ago stupidly and sold it or threw it in the bin or something. I don't know. And it's annoying because it's probably worth quite a bit now. But so I found all this stuff. And obviously the time between then and now, I've done so much work on final mile, packaging, unboxing, all of that sort of stuff. And I thought, well, why isn't anybody doing this now? This was like in 94, 95. Why isn't anybody doing this now? Because this is cool. But my criticism of it was it had no real purpose. It was a fun, quirky thing to do, and it got people to buy it because, hey, I want my wheels in a beer bottle rather than a box because that's cool. And so I think, well, actually, if we could do this in a way that is more purposeful and adds to the proposition. So there was that side of things. From all the work I've done over the last 2 decades, a lot of I think the biggest mistake businesses make is that the final mile, or everything past the point of I've confirmed my order, is very transactional and very may have had a lot of focus on service levels and a lot of focus on getting that item to the customer quick, fast, safe, trackable, and all those sorts of things. But it's quite cold. It's quite the experience almost ends at that point, and then you get you get your box. And I'm not saying nobody's doing it well, because they are, but a lot of times you just open a box and it's a product, and you could have bought a 300 quid, 400 quid jacket or something like that. It's just in a poly bag, in a box, or in a bag, and things like this. And I was thinking, well, why can't the packaging be part of the proposition, and actually further the proposition of what we're trying to do? And so where it came from was we tried to design this kind of cyclical acquisition piece that from right from the start, when we're talking to people about the brand, we drop in, or we send these out in ice cream tubs, and people go, "What? That's weird. Why would you do that?" And it gives us a talking point. So it helps our mission because we're talking about it and why an ice cream tub. And so for people that don't know, this is the ice cream tub represents, it's called Uncle Matt's Brain Freeze ice cream. The hats are designed so that on the outside they look very clean and simple and very subtle and classic. And on the inside, they've got this pattern that we call the Brain Freeze pattern, which is representing that most of the time we sort of think that we're the only people feeling down, depressed, anxious, whatever it may be. And we look at other people and we say, they're all right. Why do I feel like this? When actually, as we all start to talk, we've realized that everybody has had times where they're feeling like that. So from the outside, we all look clean, sorted, no problem. But on the inside as well, the stuff's going on. So because we called it the Brain Freeze pattern, we took it a step further and said, well, let's send this out in ice cream tubs to represent that moment where everything just becomes too much in your head and you go, I can't do this anymore. I've got to do something. I've got to change something. So it gives us something to talk about right at the start of that acquisition journey. So one, from a commercial point of view, but two, from a mission point of view. It also then aids conversion because people say, "Oh, that's cool. I'd quite like that," and want to buy it for the hat tub. It's hopefully too good to throw away, as you've got your, So it's something that people keep. It can become an ornament, or keep stuff in it, or do whatever. Or it's designed to be a hat box generally, so you can keep your hat in it. If you're like a sneakerhead that keeps their shoes in all the boxes and stuff to keep them nice, you can do that with your hat. So it does a lot of legwork pre-conversion for us. It also gives us a lot of marketing opportunities. So, I was telling people before that on LinkedIn, I pretended that I bought an ice cream van and was starting an ice cream van business, and everyone sort of went, what the hell? Why are you doing that? So it gives us some marketing and PR opportunities that we wouldn't have if we just mean I'm selling a hat. But then whereas other brands tend to get to the right, I've confirmed my order, and it becomes very transactional after that point. Actually, that's where the experience starts for us. So we send these out in, stupidly, I haven't got any here, but we send these out in an outer container that is designed to look like an ice cream, like a commercial, like a wholesale ice cream box. Mm. And we say on the side of it, "Keep chill," as a very, very clever play on the keep chilled for ice cream, but keep chill for, mentally. And what that does is then that people get unusual delivery experiences because they find them in various places that are meant to keep the ice cream cold. So it adds the experience there. You obviously get the unboxing experience of getting the tub, and people are as excited to get the tub as the hat, to be honest. In fact, probably more excited to get the tub than the hat. So it does all that sort of experience work for us, because I really wanted to create an experiential D2C brand that was sort of ecom focused. Because it's very easy to do in bricks and mortar. You know, you can create those experiences, but actually ecom, we're very sort of transactional, and just send the item to you, you're happy. And then the final bit of it is people, and this is really exciting for me to see, people that are paying money for this and aren't seeding. We have done some seeding, but we're not seeding this product to them to get UGC content out of them. People are paying for this, and then they're posting about it and saying, this is amazing, look at this, and talking about it. So that, again, furthers our mission, because people are talking about mental health, what this represents. They talk about the hat and the pattern, what that represents. But equally, they're producing video, which gives us organic reach on social channels. And what we do at that point then is we reach out to them and say, hey, loved your video. Can we use that video on site? So then, as I say, it's cyclical. It goes back to the content on site, which we're just trying to get surface better now. And equally, we can then pump that content into paid ads. So we're getting organic, authentic UGC that's not paid for. And in fact, these are paying customers. And we pump that back into the acquisition journey, and it repeats. So other than the final thing, sorry, I know I'm going on about this, but the final thing then is, we've then got other ideas for other products and packaging and stuff. We've got ideas for one to come in a copy tin and things like this. So they then hopefully become a bit collectible. So you then say, hey, I want to come back and buy that. So there's also a retention piece built around the packaging as well. So it kind of takes everything that we've focused on with businesses for the last 20 years and tries to tick all those boxes at the same time.
I think, Steve, just wanted to jump in for a second. Sorry, but the one thing that struck me, I think, with you, and when I heard, obviously, some of what you said today before as well, is there are so many well thought out layers of your business. And I think when you initially look at it and you go, oh, it's just a hat. And then you look at the mission behind it. You look at, obviously, what the thought process behind the packaging. The other thing as well, Steve, is, are you able to hold up the logo, or maybe hold up a hat with the logo on? Because
this logo.
I've heard you talk about sort of how that logo was derived. And I just think that's another part of this kind of whole piece that you're talking about.
Yes.
So just talk us through this as well, if that's okay.
This is it. And I mean, everything has a story with this. So there's nothing that's not really been thought through. So this logo, which we're calling the headline logo, because it's the logo we use in prominence. So, it's the headline logo, but also it represents your head. So this is a U and an M for Uncle Matt. But equally, if you were to take any of our mental state over time and plot it on a graph, which we like to do in our world, plot stuff on graphs, we see this pattern. We see an up and down trend, because we all have times where we're feeling good, and we all have times where we're not feeling not so good. And some people's peaks and troughs aren't as severe as others. And some people have massive peaks and troughs. Some people might have that graph played out over a long period of time because of whatever, circumstances in their life, whether it's financial issues, whether it's, relationship issues, whether it's health issues, or whatever. So they might have those peaks and troughs might sort of fluctuate a little bit more, but everyone's graph would look like that. And so whilst it's a U and an M, it is representing that normality that it's normal for us to feel up and down. We're not supposed to, it's impractical and impossible for us to feel good and happy all the time. But we tend to assume we should feel happy all the time.
Absolutely. No, that's awesome. Thanks for going through that, Steve.
Steve, so, I mean, what you just said there about the ups and downs, and this might be something you know a little bit more about than I do. I think what a lot of people don't see is that you see some personalities that look like they're always up there. But the problem is, behind closed doors, those same people are the people that are probably the lowest. And that's probably indicative of what you're saying there, those peaks and troughs. It does go down just as high as it went up. Yeah. And those generally, and people, I would say, normally look at those people and go, oh, no, they can't have a mental health issue. They're so happy. They're always like the life of the party. But meanwhile, like, that's the person that you probably need to be looking out the most for.
That's it.
Is that,
and that kind of cliche of, well, what have you got to be depressed about? You're earning money, you've got a family, you've got a great relationship, you've got whatever. It's like you've ticked all the boxes. So why are you depressed? Well, because sometimes we are,
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that one a few times.
Yeah.
I said to myself.
Yes.
Oh, the joy.
And that's it. We say it to ourselves as well. That's the other thing. So we say, why am I feeling like this? Everything's great. Why am I feeling like this? So yeah.
Jumping back into the packaging now. Look, you've been fucking deliberate about what you've been doing. It obviously surprise and delight. Somebody gets this pack. If they haven't seen it before, they're going to get a massive surprise. They're going to be like, "What the hell is this? Why is it an ice cream container?" My wife was confused when this box arrived. She looked at it and she was like, "Why you got ice cream?" And I was like, "Don't worry, there's got a story behind it." Like you said, it's a retention play. Plus, you got the UGC coming out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people would have, before doing something like this, would have gone, "No, too costly. Getting that box, putting in another box, making all of that. No, that pushes up my price of my product far too high." They would have had their accounting hats on and just gone, "No, not doing that. We're just going to get the cheap box." I sort of lost you for what my question is, but what was the moment where you went, "No, hell, I have to do this. This is the way that we're going to make sure that this brand works"? What was the deliberate moment in your head that went, "We have to do it this way"? And also,
guess,
what was the effort involved? Maybe we got people listening here that haven't even thought about this, but like, what's the effort involved of getting something like this involved, and how much does it increase that cost by?
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy. Making an ice cream tub this size is incredibly hard. And making it in the precise dimensions that fits in it in the way that we want it to fit in, so that actually when you open it, I don't know if I can show you here. When you open it, you see the hat looking at you like this. Making sure that all works. Getting the other stuff on the back print. It's all hard work. So there's one side of you in terms of the commerciality of it and the financial aspect of it that sort of says, is this worth it? And then there's the time and the effort, and you go, is this worth it? But the reason why we persevered was, I do a lot of work with brands around value proposition and what you mentioned, Simon Sinek, the what's your why and things like that. And so many brands, actually there's both. There's brands that haven't really thought about their value proposition, and they're focused very much on the product and the product detail. And the first thing I do is sort of say, actually, we've got to elevate above that. Why are we making this product and things like that? And there's other brands that have a really great value proposition, and it's really different to other people, but they talk about the same stuff that their competitors talk about. And they don't actually shout about their value proposition. I can think of probably half a dozen off the top of my head that we've sort of said, actually, that's really good and really unique, but you're telling me the product features. You're not telling me why you're doing this. So the reason why we persevered with it was because without it, it's just a hat, and it would be a lot harder to sell. So whilst there's a lot more upfront work and cost, actually it dilutes everything when you come to actually market and acquire on this, because there's a lot easier way to actually get this across to people, rather than saying it's a hat. What's a hat about? Well, it represents mental health. Well, how does it do that? Well, it doesn't. There's no real meaning behind it. It's just, my brother wore hats. And actually, when there's a meaning behind anything, the dilution of your acquisition cost and everything it is your reward. So whilst you might pay additional costs up front, so to give you a flavor, this tub costs probably about 60% of what the hat costs to produce. So it's almost, it's not an insignificant cost, but without it, it's a hat and it's not interesting. And why would you buy into it? So I guess to answer your question is, we focused on, well, what are the core bits of this? If we were to remove the ice cream tub, does it still work? If we were to remove the pattern side of the hat, does it still work? If we were to remove the logo with meaning, does it still work? Well, actually, no, it starts to lose appeal and lose value. And so the bits that are that add value, appeal, exclusivity, that's another thing that no one else is doing this, and it's a hard story to replicate. all of this stuff just adds to the potency of the value proposition.
Yeah. Just on that, yesterday, I was wearing the hat yesterday when I went to the barber. My hair was a lot longer yesterday and it was terrible. So I went to the barber yesterday, had the hat on, put it down on the counter. And when I was leaving, he picked it up and he looked at it, the inside of it. He was like,
yeah,
that's a really cool hat. And then it gave me the opportunity to tell him the story behind it as well, so. It's just another, like what you just say, all these little elements add to your branding and your story. And, if I don't know my barber, if he suffers from mental health, but, if he does, he's probably going to go, hell, that story just resonated with me. I might go and shop for that hat now as well. So
that's it. And I love hearing those stories that are out in the real world, because, that's what it's designed to do, but you never know in the real world if that's what's actually going to happen. But hearing that's just like, mind blown sort of thing.
Well, Steve, I want to just jump in on. Sorry, Pete, after you.
So the last thing I just wanted to say there on sort of this packaging element. What was the first moment that you realized that the packaging was actually really working for you?
I think it was. We had an order go out and customer contacted us and said it's not arrived. We tracked it and said, well, it has. It's showing it's delivered. We could see a photo of it being delivered. It was to a shared big building in London, so shared offices of multiple businesses. So we can see it's been delivered. Okay, what's the name that's been delivered? We tracked that back. Yes, that's the security chap, or somebody on reception. I can't remember who it was, but it's been delivered by somebody there, so it's got to be there somewhere. And it took us about 2 or 3 days to track it down, and they found it it was one of these, a bit like a WeWork or something like that. They have the communal kind of area, and they've got free drinks and stuff. So they had a fridge with some beers in and some soft drinks and stuff like that you can go help yourself to. And these drinks have been shoved to the side, and our outer box was wedged into this fridge. And then it had the logo, the Brain Freeze logo on the front, just looking out at you. And so the customer took a photo of it and said, I found it, it's in the fridge. And I said, oh, can I use that image? Can I have that image? So yeah, the fact of that it had gone through that process, and somebody said, I need to store it somewhere cold because it's gonna melt. So that was the first time I thought, yes, it's working.
Yeah. Steve, I want to ask you a question here about about value propositions versus goals and objectives of the business, because as we were talking, it reminded me of a conversation that I had with the guys over at Batch, who are the sustainable suit company. And I was having dinner with Julian, one of the co-founders, and we were talking about the sustainability element. And he said to me, at the moment, the sustainability element is not the thing that is selling the suits.
Yeah.
The thing that is selling the suits at the moment is the fact that people are getting a very high quality suit for a fraction of the cost that they can get on Savile Row. And I thought it was quite interesting about what he was saying there is that the value proposition they thought was going to be the objective of the business. Mm-hmm. And I guess their beliefs that about what they want out of life and what they believe that we should contribute to the world. And I guess what I'm getting at here is from your perspective, at the moment, you have been pushing the business from that perspective of, okay, your beliefs, your thoughts, the ethos of the business. Mm. But I guess because of what you've done here with the packaging and also in terms of the quality of the product, I guess you still have that in your arsenal as a value prop to them going to have the piece about Matt and about the mission as a secondary thing. Is that kind of the way that you think about it?
It's exactly the case. So, for example, the hats, they're sort of 90% recycled material. And we have that on the product page. So it's, you think of the funnel or the path to purchase and purchase journey, it's there at the time where you're sort of going, I call them FUDs. So the fears, uncertainties, doubts, things like that. So when you get to the product, you go, okay, I like the mission. I like the fact that it comes in quirky packaging. I like that it's, sort of a irreverent view of mental health awareness and stuff like that. But actually, what's the product? Well, actually, it's 90% recycled. Great. So the peak inside here is recycled. This is recycled polyester. The lining that's printed on is recycled. There's 2 bits of virgin material in here. One is the clasp at the back, the metal clasp, but it's metal, so it's not plastic. And there's a silicone patch on the side here. I don't know if you can see. That's virgin, but again, it's silicone, so it's not as problematic. So whilst we are not an eco brand, and a hat isn't an eco product, because it has to have plastic in it for it to actually work. If you put cardboard in this thing, as soon as it rains, it starts to fold onto you. But we sort of said, well, why wouldn't we do that? In terms of, we could do it. We could probably save about 15% of our costs by making this not in recyclable materials. But why wouldn't we? So it's exactly what you say, that the value proposition isn't based around sustainable recycled hats that are saving plastic bottles from the ocean and all stuff like this. But that's a booster. So it's almost like that final shove. Actually, there's a concern I have around, is this what is the footprint of this? Then that's an answer there. It also offsets, I have a sort of a slight thing, we're sending quite a bit of air with this. So it's not the most efficient thing to actually post out. So what I wanted to do was offset that. I can't do it without this ice cream tub. I need that. So I have to ship this in a larger box than a hat will come in, but I can rest a bit more easy that we're actually offsetting some of that elsewhere. So yeah, it's, I think it's the hierarchy of the value proposition that's important. You mentioned batch, that for them, people aren't buying it because it's a sustainable product, but actually that's also a nice thing to have as well. It's that final qualifier for them. So yeah.
Cool. No, that's good. I mean, I think it's something that we all kind of, need to think about as a business, about that, like you said there, that hierarchy of the value prop and how we use that at different times. I mean, I want to get onto kind of the fulfillment side now, because like you said, in terms of buying a product, it's quite bland, that last part of you put your credit card details and it goes. I suppose the thing is then, in terms of then the fulfillment process, we've talked about the packaging side of it. Is there anything particular that you focus on specifically in terms of that fulfillment process, so that you didn't get that moment where you felt like it was letting down all of the other work that you've done along the process before?
We really kind of lean into the ice cream thing. So for example, I don't have them here, but we talk about impact theater a lot. So that unboxing experience and things like that. So, we talked about the tub and the outer box and as to all that, but even down to the fact of that we put bounce backs in here to get people back, or that you can share with a friend to get a discount off another hat. But instead of just putting that on, a bit of card or a bit of paper, wherever we print it on a napkin. So it's a napkin like you would get when you get your ice cream, and they hand it to the cone or something. They hand it to you in a napkin, or if you get it in a tub, you get it in a napkin. So it's that kind of it's the detail that really interests me, and saying, well, actually, we really go. We've also got ideas. We haven't yet done it, but we're raising awareness for a charity called Facing the Stigma, and they have something called the Hub of Hope, which is mental health. It's an app that you download and keep on your phone, but it's the largest directory. It's got about 15,000 plus mental health services listed on it in the UK. And so we want to signpost towards that a lot, and we're donating some of our profits back into assisting them. But also we've got ideas of how at the moment we just stick in a kind of card, and it feels a bit not that on brand for us. But what I want to do is produce a spoon that is like a key ring. So a little ice cream spoon that you would get with your ice cream and stuff like that. But actually it's got the Hub of Hope information on it and a QR on it or something like that. So I think it's that. I think it's that continuing everything, if you think about every step of the journey. So we thought about, we on the boxes that these ship in, we talk to the delivery drivers. And so we say, keep chill on the side, but then we explain, actually, you don't need, obviously some people haven't read it, but we say, actually, we don't need to. And so we chat to them and sort of to say, I've not seen the amount of ecom parcels that are sent out from all the businesses around the world. How many of you seen that actually communicate with a person that has taken that to the door? So I'm like, I try to think of every opportunity where we can do something a little bit different. And so, we talk to the customer. So I think it's about thinking about every step of the journey. What can I do that's a little bit different that actually is not considered or is like a given for sending an order out in a box? You tend to forget about the person that's actually delivering it, or you tend to forget about that. I get a discount for my next order, but what if that could be part of the experience rather than just be a boring bit of paper, that we throw in the bin? No,
absolutely. And I think you say it seems a golden opportunity that people are missing. because, like you say, there are so many sets of eyes and hands touching that item before it actually gets the person's intended to. One of the things that I'm thinking about as well as talking is from a post-purchase experience, and we talk about tracking that and the impact of it. In your mind, in my mind first, what I'm saying is, look, I get my first Uncle Matt's hat. Is the post-purchase that you're most interested in, me then talking to the people then to then get those people to then buy a hat, to then reciprocate, keep going, or is it about me then buying another color, other color? Is a mixture. It's like, in your mind, the way you think this might play out, which routes do you think that the post-purchase side is going to generate you the most revenue from it at the moment, with 6 months in?
I would think at this stage it's you talking about it to someone else and saying, "Hey, look at this thing," or somebody, Peter, as you said, like your wife saying, "What have you got an ice cream tub?" It's those sorts of conversations. I explain it, and so it becomes a kind of a it's all designed around the social share piece, whether that's in person or on a social channel. So I think it's that. But as we continue to grow, it's not a high repeat rate product. You're not buying a new hat every month unless you're a real diehard hat.
Unless you're Rich Evans.
Yeah, unless you're Rich Evans. So it's not a highly repeatable product. So it's that experience that hopefully you'll talk to someone else about it. That not only adds commercial positioning for us in terms of getting new customers, but it also serves our mission, because you're talking about mental health and you're talking about what this represents. Whereas if we sent you a hat and a catalog about how to better serve your mental health, you might read it, but would you talk to someone about it? Probably not, because it's not that interesting and things like that. So it serves that piece. It adds to gifting, because you experienced this, and if you've chatted to a mate or someone and said, "Oh, I know they're going through a tough time," well, I'll gift you one of these because hopefully it'll make you smile just for a couple of minutes whilst you open it, but also there's meaning about it. You can represent this and things like that. But then it also adds to the retention rate piece of that customer. So when we do new colorways, as I say, we've got other ideas for hats in coffee tins and hats in prescription bags, and we got 1,000,002 ideas that we want to do. They then become that collectible piece, hopefully, that you say, well, I've got my brain, we call this a brain freeze one. I've got my brain freeze hat, but I want so the idea is the Uncle Matt's bedhead coffee is the fake sub brand that we want to create. Well, I want my bedhead one. I want that, and it becomes collectible, and these sit on shelves. So I'm a huge fan of something that does multiple things. And so, as I said at the start, this fuels our acquisition piece. It fuels our retention piece. It fuels our gifting piece. It fuels our social share piece. It fuels our UGC piece. Everything I can think of that I draw out of this ice cream tub, I do. So I think, to answer your question, it's all of the above that you mentioned, hopefully.
Love that. Thank you so much, Steve. Great stuff. Peter, I think you've got some more questions on the display, haven't you?
I do. Rich Evans having good to see he's actually listening to this.
He does need to update his LinkedIn image, though, because that's the wrong hat he's wearing in that image.
Oh, he's in trouble right there.
There you go.
Look, you've touched on this quite a bit today, but we haven't really got into the full details. With your conversations that you're generating, you're building a community, right? You're building out the ability for people to have these conversations. And I think one of the big things that you're doing is, obviously, you guys are having these Uncle Matt's chats. Can you walk us through what you envisioned with this? And I know that you guys have had one event so far. I think Adam went down to it. He's been raving about it constantly. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about the process of developing that part of the community feeling around the brand as well.
I think there's a couple of bits to it. So what we've found is that the kind of the quirky, irreverent stuff around the ice cream tub and the design of the hat gains interest, and then when customers find out the story behind it and there's actually meaning behind this, it's not just somebody coming up with a random idea of producing an ice cream tub and sticking a hat in it. Actually, it's all come from somewhere in the story, and then that it resonates so much with so many people. What you end up with is a real highly engaged customer. So what we're trying to do then is use that highly engaged customer to fuel our give back piece. So as I said, we're donating some profits to Chasing the Stigma and the Hub of Hope, but also we're using some of our profits and our capital to put on our own events where we're actually signposting towards other people that are doing good stuff in the area. Sorry, not in the area, in the mental health sort of space. So the idea behind the chats events, and that's only kind of one of the ideas that we've got that will run throughout. We've got loads of other ideas as well that hopefully will come on as we build up more of a cash base. The idea is that we're getting people in a room and they're talking, which is great. And Adam, you said before we jumped on about when you were at the event, you had conversations with people there, and it kind of was just it gave you an excuse to talk and those people to talk about their experiences. So it solves that. So we're getting people talking, we're signposting towards other people. So we had a couple of podcast hosts. So you should check them out. So there's Louis from the Headstrong podcast. He spoke about his story and why he started that podcast. We had Russ from the Talking Tradesman, who's launched a podcast in the construction sector. And he's got a huge following now, and he's doing some really good. The stats, the suicide rate, and everything in construction is just awful, and so he's doing some really good work there. So we're not only signposting people towards those things, so that we're raising awareness for those things that are then further raising awareness of mental health issues. We're also bringing people into different sectors. So there was a lot of people at the event that when Russ spoke about construction said, I never even realized that this was such an issue in the construction industry. So again, it kind of serves all our goals in terms of mission of raising awareness and normalizing mental health. However, as I said, I'm a big fan of one thing doing multiple things. It also adds a commercial angle to us because it drives awareness of the brand, and it drives people back to the website and hopefully aids conversion because people are seeing that we're actually doing something. We're putting our money where our mouth is. We're not just trying to completely profit off of the initiative. But equally, it gives us PR opportunities to say, look, we're running these events. So, we're not just trying to sell a hat. So it enables us to get into places and to get coverage easier. And it also gives us content. So we have content to run out of these events that we can push on all our channels. So it encompasses everything that we need to fuel our mission, but also to fuel the commercial acquisition, retention piece as well. So that's the idea. And it's almost win-win that it's achieving both those things. It's not just a brand event. It's actually a full value event that's also pushing our brand.
I love how you're creating a sort of circular economy for yourself around, it's not all just, when I say it's an economy, I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about the content side.
Yeah.
It's talking about the awareness and the actual driver of your brand as well.
That's right.
And all three of those, it's more than three, but they all just going around in the circle for you.
Yeah.
It's hell of a deliberate though, right? You are, I think this is probably something that a lot of people, I'm guilty of this as well. There's a big hype in the e-commerce world. It's like move fast, break shit, let's do stuff.
Yeah.
But you've taken a step back and you've gone, no, I'm going to plan this all out. And you investing time, money, energy all into these little things that aren't necessarily going to be your money makers from day one, but 3-4 years down the line here, with everything that you're doing, you're going to have a beast in your hands here to be dealing with, because everything's just going to be rolling back into itself. And the minute somebody comes into that community that you've got driving there, it's incredible, right? Like, it's really, really, really awesome to see how your thinking is coming out in what you're doing right now. If you were looking at other brands right now, if they don't have this big why like you've got, how do they replicate this?
The biggest issue I see in businesses is that lack of differentiation. And the most simple thing, and we did it with the business that I ran for 12 years as well. If you imagine a Venn diagram of three circles, so three pots, and you say, right, what does your customer want? What is something that they're after? What is your competitor doing? There's an overlap in those two circles. And then what are you doing? And there's this bit in the middle, which is the me too bit, which is the well, we're offering exactly the same as what they do. The customer wants that product or that service or whatever it is. They can offer it, we can offer it. So why should they shop with us? Don't know. And then people put things like, the little boosters, free delivery. We plant a tree for every order, or, all these things to try and steer you towards purchasing with them. But there's this other piece of the Venn diagram, which is what you can offer your customer that the customer wants that your competitor can't offer. And that's the bit to focus on. So, you might have a, I don't know. So you might have a fashion brand that has all the same things, good quality, product that fits, it lasts a long time, does all the things that you would shout about. But what is different about you? And so we did a piece, which I can't name, but with a brand. And we actually said, well, look, their geographical location actually results in the way they design clothes, because they use local artists to design the patterns on the clothes and stuff like that. And so they're fueling that economy within their local space. And it's very inspiring space, and people want to go and live there, but they can't because they're stuck in cities and stuff. So it becomes very aspirational. And I said, why aren't we shouting about that? That's what we should shout about. The fact that the clothes fit and they last forever and they've got lovely patterns on and stuff like that. Well, everyone else can say that. And we should say that, and back to that value proposition funnel, we should say that second. First, we should say about the bits that's different. And so I think, to answer your question, that's what big brands need to focus on, is what is the thing that you can say that only you can do that your competitor can't say they can do it.
But mixing that in, it's got to be something that your customer actually wants as well.
Exactly. So it's that part of the Venn diagram that the customer wants that you can offer, that chunk that your customer can't.
Yeah.
Sorry, your competitor can't.
Tying off the community, look, community is a massive buzzword in e-commerce right now. You've been able to generate this community around your ethos of what you're trying to do with your brand and the awareness side. How would you say to somebody that potentially doesn't quite know how to get community around their brand, what would that, what's one thing that they can start doing around community?
I think, and this might sound too obvious, but I think it's talking to your customer, finding out what they're aligned in. A few brands I've worked with, their product might not be about the thing that a lot of their customers are interested in. So I can think of a non-alcoholic beer brand that links to a lot of active events, so cycling, running, and stuff like that, because whilst directly non-alcoholic beer doesn't relate to that, actually people are drinking non-alcoholic beer because so they can go up and do these events the next day. So what it would be talking to your customer, saying, what are you into? What are you? And it might not be completely anything to do with your product, but if your customer is that type of customer that's into that, then you serve that in whatever way, whether that's through events, through discussion, through I don't know, alignment with other brands or whatever it may be. So yeah, it might sound too obvious, but just chat and see what your community is after, and can you serve that?
Yeah, but Steve, I think no one does that, do they? People are hesitant to talk to customers, and it drives me fucking mad because so many people don't do it.
And when they do, it's about the product. Yeah, it's all about the product, And okay, that is important, because that's what you're selling. That's the commercial part of the business. But actually, to talk to a customer just about your product is saying that they don't have all this other stuff going on in their lives. Well, of course they do. Of course they do. So there's a lot that they are into, so what event can you put on that adds value to your customer? What can you talk about on social? The amount of brands you see just pushing product on organic social. Nobody goes to social. Okay, you might get served ads and you might go, okay, that's interesting. But from an organic point of view, nobody goes on there to go, I really hope I get served some content around, I don't know, some jeans today. Nobody goes like that. But actually, if they're served content, we did a really good piece with a dog food brand many years ago around mindful walking and how it helps the dog and it helps the owner, because it's good for both of you. You both get out, it's exercise, it's fresh air and all of this. And we produced this content and we said, we're going to run this at top funnel on Meta. And they said, but we don't mention the product. We don't tell people what it is. I said, that doesn't matter. The only product mentioned and the brand mentioned was the logo and the company name at the end and a web address. But it was all around going out and walking with your dog. And it had a huge effect at top funnel in terms of awareness and filling that funnel. And then you do your more product. And again, it's hierarchy. Then you do your more product specific features and benefits further down. So yeah, again, it sounds obvious. Ask yourself, what do you go on social media for? Do you go there to learn about a dog food brand? Probably not. You might go to Google more for that, but so what can you serve that's of interest to your customers and something that adds value to them?
Yeah, mate, I think that's awesome advice what you've just dropped there. I think you do get into your funnel, right? I mean, into your own little circle, and you go, oh, I can't do anything right here. But it's like, to use a really terrible example, a beer brand goes, we got people that drink beer, but you know what? Majority of our target audience watches rugby. Yeah. Let's make sure that we at the rugby. Let's make sure we're the sponsors of that. Let's and trying to dumb that down now for a smaller brand, and you go exactly the same thing. Where is my typical customer? What are they? Where are they socializing? What are they doing? Let's just make sure that we're facilitating that as well, and then we become part of that community.
I mean, the examples you gave there, when you think of Guinness, what do you think about? You think rugby. What do you think about Carlsberg? You think football. What do you think about Red Bull? You think extreme sport. It's become synonymous with the brand. And that's what people seem to like. And I think everybody as well, you're all, because we're all blasted with communication all the time. So me sitting in this business sector, whatever I'm in, naturally is going to be blasted with competitor information because I'm interested in that business. I'm not a normal consumer. I'm somebody that's very heavily in that space. So I get blasted with their comms and I say, well, they're saying that. We need to say that then because they're saying it. We can't be seen not to be saying it because they're saying it. And it becomes self-fulfilling. And that you're each brand, each competitor is fueling each other's comms by doing the same thing, Whereas instead of going, actually, what can I say that they can't say? That's what I'm going to focus on. And of course, yes, I'll say the other stuff further down the hierarchy. But first and foremost, I'm going to say the thing that I know they cannot claim.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you sell stuff online? Then you need OmniSend. Yes, that OmniSend. The powerful yet refreshingly intuitive email and SMS tool that helps you make $73 on average for every dollar spent. Like watching steady lines go up and up and up? Just automate your email and SMS campaigns with OmniSend. Set it up once, then sit back and watch the sales roll in while you snooze. You're still awake? Then go to omnisend.com/ECC. Give OmniSend a try and start getting sales so steady they'll definitely put you to sleep. Don't forget to use code ECC30 for a 30% discount.
Cool. So, Steve, we've got some questions that have been put on the various different channels that are on, and I'm just going to put these up on the screen, and then we're going to have a look through these then. So, the first one comes from Molly. Molly says, interesting to hear how you link up the message you're putting out across the unboxing and packaging experience with the rest of your retention marketing, e.g. email, etc., to link up the physical experience back to the online experience.
So, I think the way we do that, I mean, it's very nice to us to lean into the ice cream connotation, so we've got that kind of running throughout. So the unboxing, packaging around ice cream, we can, again, put out on email and all channels. In terms of the retention marketing, obviously we're early days in terms of, heavy retention because we're still acquiring at high level. But then everything we do is geared around adding value, which then fuels our retention piece. So the digital space would be then putting out about our events that we've got running, or we would email out about our events. It might be emailing out or signposting stuff about the charity we work with and things like that. So I guess the unboxing is not necessarily related to the digital retention piece in terms of, it's an ice cream tub, but it gives us kind of language and analogies for us to lean into.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, Steve. And then a question from Rich here. He says, what's been the biggest blocker you've had so far? And are there any moments when you've gotten close to packing it all in?
Mainly when Rich was clawing at my hands to get a hat out of me when I only had like one sample. That was probably the hardest time to let one of those go. Probably the biggest blocker, we intended to make the hat in the UK, and we spent about a year trying to do it. And there's only really one or two places you can. There's a lot of garment decoration places in the UK where they take a blank and put stuff on it. But naturally, with this being so custom, we just couldn't do it. So we tried to make it in the UK, and you can, but it's very expensive. The quality is not really there. Turns out 90% of the hats in the world are made in China, as you would expect. So we had to go down that route. But obviously, with the Mental Health Association, we couldn't go and find somewhere that's exploiting people in poor working conditions and stuff like that. So we then had to go through a full accreditation process where we did a beauty parade of probably about a dozen manufacturers that, and then audited them on their rates of pay and their working conditions, non-exploitative on hours, things like that, alongside can the product actually is the quality of the product up to what we want? So those two things took us 2 years just to find a product that was actually one that we were happy to sell versus, one that we're happy to sell whilst also ticking as many of our boxes as possible. We couldn't make it in the UK. I hope that in the long term, we can set up some manufacturing over here if we have some scale. But that's probably the biggest blocker that I sort of thought, maybe this isn't plausible, what we're trying to do.
Cool. Thanks, Steve. And then comment here, I guess more on the question. So, love your product. Unfortunately, we can't see who this is from, but you should get in touch with Bude Wellness Warriors. There's definitely a great opportunity for collaboration. I'm sure there are plenty of hat lovers in their community too. So
Bude's fairly local to me as well. So yeah,
I was going to say, not far away at all.
Yeah.
I think the other question we have here from Dan. So, have you thought about collaborating with an ice cream business for a limited edition at the Brain Freeze, which could be a real abundance of various flavors?
Yes and no. So I'd say we have thought about it. We've not progressed at all with any. It's a great idea from Dan there. One of the things we have, I joked at the start that I pretended to buy an ice cream van, but I do actually want to buy an ice cream van. One, because I think that would be cool, and I'd quite like to own an ice cream van. But also to actually bring that physical sort of pop-up to life, so we can take it to events, whether that be mental well-being events, but also just general events, and give away free ice cream and things like that. So that there probably will be at some point an actual Uncle Matt's Brain Freeze ice cream. I just don't know what it's going to be then, whether it's going to be collaborative with another brand or something that we produce ourselves.
Love it. I look forward to that.
We've got a couple others that we had through as well. What's the weirdest or funniest unboxing reaction you've heard of or had so far?
I think it was we got this. Somebody contacted us just to tell us the story, and so it was a voice note from a customer saying somebody had gifted them the product, and they weren't in. They were staying at their mum's house. They weren't in. Neither was the mum. So the neighbor had picked up the box for them. But the neighbor had contacted the mum to say, I've got this box of ice cream. What do you want me to do with it? I can't store it. I've got no room in my freezer. What should I do? So the mum had then contacted the customer and said, well, what do you want me to do with this ice cream? He said, ice cream? I haven't ordered any ice cream. What are you talking about? She said, well, I don't know, but it's here and it's melting. What do you want me to do with it? And he's saying, I don't know. You're just going to have to open it. I got no idea what it is. I've not ordered any ice cream. Anyway, and they opened it. She then videoed it, again, UGC. She videoed it and showed him the unboxing so he knew what it was, and then pulled out this hat and said, what is it? And he went, oh, I know what it is now. So I think that whole kind of panic, this whole panic situation of we've got to preserve this ice cream when actually there's just a hat sat in a box.
Steve, it's really effective because that kind of panic situation, that's what happened with me. So our previous office where me and Bob used to work, our neighbour Dave, who lived above us, received it when we weren't there. And I had a flurry of voicemails and texts saying that ice cream had been delivered, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I didn't get back to him about 2 or 3 days. But obviously, by the time I got to him, he'd researched you guys. He said he loved the story behind it, and he was actually going to buy one for his son. So it's just, again, like another situation where it's worked.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm just trying to smoke at your ass here, mate, but it's just true. It's like,
but what I love is, we've said about how things have been done quite deliberate, but you still get these things that you've not thought of. I'd not thought of somebody looking at that and going, shit, I don't know what to do with this because it's going to melt. I better find out what it is. Oh, it's a hat. Oh, I like the story. I'm going to go order. In terms of, I've not joined up that path, it's amazing. So all this stuff's happening. We're doing a thing with a school in Switzerland that my cousin works at. And so we set some hats out there, and they're using the tubs that they've appointed a mental health, I can't remember what they're called, but a group of the senior students in the school there. And they're going around with a load of these ice cream tubs and telling people about mental health and stuff to the younger kids in an appropriate way. But they use the tub and they write anonymous concerns, worries, struggles, whatever in there. And then they talk about it within the group anonymously. And I'm like, well, I designed this to look a bit, fun and quirky and to annoy some postmen, but to actually have people using it for a real purposeful thing to educate kids, I'm like, it blows my mind.
Mine is currently being used as a knight's helmet by my daughters. So many uses.
I've seen a few of that, different things. Yeah, somebody messaged me yesterday saying, my son's already nicked the tub. I can't get it off of his hands, and he calls it his magic box or something. I don't know, but yeah. Kids seem to love them.
Mine's an ornament. It sits on my so.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Next one then. What's the last thing that you bought online that totally impressed you?
Oh, not much. I'm quite picky. I always remember. So I've got a laptop stand here for my laptop next to my desk. I always remember that, and it's just I can't even remember the brand. But it came in this nice, secure kind of box, and in on the inside of the box was this thing attached that said, please don't throw this box away. It's a really good box. Here's the ways to use it. And they've listed off things that you could use the box for. Obviously, it was there to protect the product, but actually you could use it. So I thought that was cool. What else? There's a brand you should check out called, I think it's French or Spanish, called Eat My Socks. And so they're socks, obviously, but they're all done in really creative ways that I'm not too sure there's like any meaning other than it's really, really quirky and cool. But these socks are all designed like with print stuff on them in certain ways. When they wrap them in different things, they make them look like a donut. And so it's in a donut packaging, or what it might be, tea, or there's loads of them. But they then launched a fake supermarket in France or Spain, whatever. I think it's eatmysocks.com, something like that. But yeah, just the fact of how creative they can be. We're making this fake food stuff out of socks in the packaging. Really cool.
Like that.
You're going to have to probably reveal some of your other business ideas here. If you weren't running Uncle Matt's, what other e-com business did you want to start? And what would you have done on the unboxing side?
So, over the years, I've had various ideas that I thought, well, that's a runner. That's an idea. Quite a lot around tech platforms that I thought, well, I've not been able to find one that serves my purposes properly. So should we design it around attribution and around project planning and things like this? So probably maybe something in that space. In terms of product, I don't know. That I think because I was quite young when I sort of started and ran a business, and that was a product that I wasn't really that interested in. For me, it's all about the passion and the something that you're interested in. So all the ideas I've had, I've gone, yes, there's a gap there, but I'm not interested in it. I had a gap years ago for like eco disposable nappies because I could see the big problem with landfill and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm just not interested in it enough to warrant the time. So it would have to be something purposeful, something with something that I was really quite passionate about, but I don't quite know what that is.
Well, hopefully it comes to you, and you've got the capacity to run that business as well.
Yeah.
I'd love to see what you come up with on the unboxing of that too.
Yes.
Just two more left here. We've spoken obviously a lot about the last mile today, and then obviously a lot about community and a purpose. Outside of those, what's one e-com trend that brands need to pay attention to? I think it's back to that value proposition, differentiation. There's so many that just aren't differentiating, and there's brands doing really good things and really high revenues and volumes when they don't appear to have any differentiation. So what could they do when they really stepped it up? So I think there's that, and I think going back to the final mile, I think it's not thinking of that right. I've got the order now. It's just about service levels.
what can actually add to that experience of the relationship with that customer, whether that be through unboxing or packaging or even through post-purchase comms. Saw a really good thing with Patch Plants that they did like this. They sent you on this course, like a education course on how to look after plants as part of their post-purchase journey. You think, well, that's really, really good. Their target customers like urban dwellers with balconies, so they're maybe new to owning plants, so it actually adds value to them, and you also get the satisfaction of completing the course and stuff like that. So yeah, anything like that post-purchase that adds value, that isn't just you saying, hey, we've also got this product.
Awesome. And then on the flip of that, what's one ecom trend that needs to stop immediately?
Shiny thing syndrome does my head in. So the latest tech platform or the latest thing that we should all be doing, and you see the businesses that have got loads of tech in place but are not using any of it because it's thought that it's a silver bullet, it's going to solve their attribution problems, or it's going to solve their acquisition problems, or whatever it may be. And so, if you can't afford the tech, ditch off the tech and just do the basics, the fundamentals. Don't get sort of sucked into a silver bullet, because it's very expensive, and how much will it actually aid what you're doing?
Steve, I'm sure we've kept you way past what we had actually asked you to do. But we said before, if we go down rabbit holes, let's go down those rabbit holes. Let's just discuss it. So yeah, we've kept you on. We're not going to do a debrief today. It's been awesome having you on, and essentially we're not doing a debrief today because we've gone down all those rabbit holes with you, and I don't think there's anything left for me and Adam to talk about. This has been 100% gold, and fantastic story, and appreciate you sharing the details in the beginning as well. That couldn't have been too easy for you. But it's a fantastic story, and thank you so much for coming on today and unloading your knowledge. I think there's a lot in here for people to learn from.
Thank you. Really appreciate having me on, and really enjoyed it. And yeah, thanks for the ongoing support from you guys. Really appreciate it.
No, absolutely, Steve. Thank you so much. And some brilliant comments coming through, as you can see on the screen as well. So thank you so much. And guys, please obviously do go and check out more information on Steve and Uncle Matt's hat to be able to find more information, obviously, that comes off the back of this podcast as well. Well, that simple Google search as well. Peter, anything else to add before we say goodbyes?
No ways. Steve has said it all today. That's perfect.
Totally agree. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you next time for the Ecom Collab Club Podcast.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Ecom Collab Club Podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, and join our community at ecomcollabclub.com/community.